Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mr. Daps. Good morning, Ms. MM. Good morning, Ms. Nkechi. Good morning, Ms. Ajala. Good morning, Ms. Adefisayo. Good morning, Ms. Ngozi. Good morning, Dr. Dairo.
Good
Ken, good
morning,
morning
sir.
to you. And good morning to all of our attendees. All right, so Mr. Daps, over to you.
Okay, good morning. Thank you very much, Adi. Good morning, all. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today. We want to say a special thank you, of course, to our speakers who have taken the time to prepare for today and to make themselves available today. Today is a happy Independence Day, so I hope I'm wishing everybody happy Independence. Independence Day is a day that we're sort of meant, or as a country, meant to reflect on where we have been, where we are, where we want to get to. And we thought that today would be a good day for us to speak about the future of our nation. Of course, we'll talk about our children. And, we thought that, this would be very appropriate for us to discuss the way forward, which is how we titled it, which is, we're all aware of the new policy that the government has introduced. A lot of people are concerned about it. How's it going to affect them? How's it going to affect their children? How's it going to affect the future? So we said, let's just discuss it. Let's just discuss this and see how we can propose solutions and give people peace of mind and give them direction on how to move forward. So that was the essence of this discussion. People have talked about the 16 or 18, the whole flog the matter. We thought let us have a discussion on actual solutions. So that was the essence of this talk, and we pray that everybody will enjoy it, that everybody will leave this place wiser, having direction, having clear idea of how to move forward, and we pray that we'll all participate as well. So thank you very much for joining us, and God bless you. Thank you. Over to you, Ryan.
All right, well, thank you. So basically, we'll set the ball rolling immediately. Our time is already running, and we need to get this started immediately. Welcome everyone once again, and take it on. Take it over. All right.
Thank you so much. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our guests, our those who are listening from the sideline, and those who will be watching this recording. It's a real pleasure to have you all here. Today I'll be your moderator, and I have a super talented co-moderator who you'll also be getting to hear from very soon. So today I'm going to be in between sending you direct messages, asking the questions, and I have Mrs. Ngozi Egonyuru also with me today, who you'll be hearing from very soon. So now, while we are getting ready to start, I would like to know who is in the house. I would like to know, I'd like to be sure that we're all able to use the chat function. And we also have a section where you can type in your questions. So as things are progressing, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function, which is at the bottom of your tab if you're using a laptop, and same if you're using a phone. So if you wanted to just chat or send us some greetings, you can do that in the chat area. But if you have pertinent questions you would like to see answered, please put them in the Q&A function. There's also the virtual hand raising and other things that you may need. This is a webinar function, and so only the panelists will be featuring on the screen. Now, before we dive in and before we get to introduce our speakers, I would like us to share or extend our greetings. Today is Nigeria's Independence Day. I would like us to put in the chat area, also based on our topic, put in the chat area what city you're joining from and the age that you got admission into university. So put that in the chat area. So for example, if you are in any city or something, you could be anywhere, put the city you're joining from and the age that you got admission into university. Let's see if you can do that. And then I will get ready to continue the conversation. And so today we have, thank you. I'd love to see the age. No shame, this is a safe space. We're not judging. We're not judging and all that. I'll do the same. Fantastic. That is really good. Look at that. That is excellent. So you're going to see a very interesting and diverse mix of things. And today's theme, we're looking at the way forward, rethinking the future of education. And we're not just talking just because of the conversation that sparked a lot of controversy and back and forth a few weeks ago when it was directed. We had decided as a nation that we want to move up or want to authorize or insist that university age is at a particular number, and people had different viewpoints and all that. But we're looking at it from different industries. We're looking at it from different perspectives, and I believe that at the end of this, our collective discussions would be able to indeed help us with a way forward. Are you seeing the chat area? The chat is fantastic. I am already looking at this, and we might as well close the webinar because we have we have a lot. Yeah, we have 20. I actually got in at 16. Look at that. 18. I actually got in at 18. I got admission at 18. My older brother got in at 15, actually. So yeah, this is really interesting. So yeah, this is really good. Please keep it coming. As you come in, keep it coming. Let us know where you're joining from. Put in the age. Again, as I said, we're not judging you, but we have a great time. So the way it's going to run today, we're going to be introducing the speakers. My co-moderator will be doing that very soon. And then we would have a first session where we are having some core questions. So please join in. It's very well structured. You would be done in no time. We have that first part. We have a poll that we expect everyone to take part in, and then we will go to the second half of our questions. All right. So I'm gonna hand over to you for a few minutes, Ngozi, so that you could get to share the presentation and acknowledge all our panelists and speakers, and then I would dive right in. We'll be inviting the opening remarks very soon. Okay, I'll be introducing our speaker for the opening remarks. So are you there, Ngozi?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I am.
And can we have the slide showing, Ken?
Okay, so I'm just going to hold on for Ken to share the slides. All right, so that we can all see while I do the introduction. Okay. Okay. We have a good number of very well versed Nigerians who are going to be doing the honors. Okay, yes, Ken, thank you. Yes, I can see that. So I'm going to be okay. So I'll start off with very first on the list. I should let you know that it is in no particular order. So we're acknowledging each and every one of them as they are arranged on your screen. So first up, we have Mrs. Adif. I hope you can hear me well. Okay, great. Thank you. Amen. Thank you. Okay, so we have Mrs. Adefisayo, a former Lagos State Commissioner of Education, achieved a remarkable increase in the state's WAEC pass rate from 39% to 80% during her tenure. With over eight years as CEO of Coroner Schools Trust Council, and now as Principal Consultant, CEO of Leading Learning Limited, she is a highly respected educator. Mrs. Adefisayo will share her groundbreaking insights on the school age appropriate policy and its impact on the future of children and students. So we will be definitely going to hear from her. Okay, so let's move on to the next, Ken. Okay, so here we have Mr. Sawyer with an education background in Nigeria and the UK. He is the first managing director of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund. Recognizing the challenges of education funding in the region, many parents rush to push their children through school, often disregarding appropriate class age. So Mr. Sawyer will be highlighting the importance of not rushing children through their education and the critical role of funding interventions in addressing these issues. Cheers. We'll be hearing from Mr. Sawyer as well. Okay, and next we have Samira Jiber, the national president of the National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools, NAPS, and founder of the prestigious Gliston International Academy. She brings deep leadership experience, including her past role as FCT NAPS president. Hajia Samira will offer a global perspective on the importance of aligning age and maturity in education. She'll be emphasizing the need to equip 16 to 18-year-olds with essential life skills for their success. Excellent. Oh, Mrs. Ladupisayo, amazing. I just saw something about how she ended when she entered the university on the comment. Absolutely. Okay, so Ken, the next one, please. All right, so we have Dahiru. We have Dr. Dahiru Sani. He is a visionary educator and innovator. He has extensive experience in spearheading financial and economic development education initiative. As the founder of Kaduna Business School and vice president of Transcontinental University, Ohio, USA, he has been instrumental in shaping curriculum and policy. So, drawing from his experience, Dr. Sani will be discussing the vast opportunities available for postgrad students in entrepreneurial skills development, highlighting pathways to success through innovative education and, of course, hands-on learning. Okay, so we move on to the next speaker. I tell you what, we are in for a great ride because these speakers, you just really want to hear from them. Next, we have Mrs. Angela Ajala. She's the founder of Ladala School. She brings in over 30 years of experience in education, inspiring growth in both academics and community service. She's a Gold SASH scholar and alumna of the Pan-Atlantic University's Enterprise Development Center. She's the founder and president of the African Women Entrepreneurship Program and national coordinator of the Association of Nigeria Women Business Network. With her rich expertise and visionary approach, Mrs. Ajala will offer valuable insight on how parents and schools can align age and maturity to equip students with future-ready skills. How else can we put that? This is so important. This is something that we all need at this critical time. Next, please. So next we have Dr. Babatunde Obrima. Forgive me if I didn't get that name right. He's the Chief Operating Officer of the FinTech Association of Nigeria. He brings a diverse skill set from his expertise in banking, financial services consulting, project management, and the public sector. So Dr. Obrima will share insight with parents and educators on the importance of equipping teens with digital skills during the gap years, which is something that we really need to look at. We need to drill down on. It will be, sharing expertise that will help us to empower them to pivot and thrive on a global stage. Amazing. Okay, so next we have Nkechi Obi. Next we have Nkechi Obi. All right, fantastic. So Nkechi Obi, she's the CEO of Sports Nigeria and convener of the Sports Africa Investment Summit. She's dedicated to building vibrant grassroots-based Nigerian sports industry that drives economic growth and job creation. Very specific. She's passionate about sports as a vehicle for transformation. Nkechi will guide schools, educators, students, parents in discovering pathways that restore hope for post-high school students, helping them unlock their full potential and future opportunities. This is something that we really, really need to talk about. I'm also going to be learning as well. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ngozi. I believe we've touched on every one of our speakers and guests.
No, yes, we also have one more person, which is Mr. Olasukomi Okwefa. Mr. Olasukomi Okwefa, as a convener of the Phenomenon, a leading educators forum in Abuja. Okwefa advocates for fun-based learning. His accomplishments include being named 2018 Multina Teacher of the Year and a top 10 finalist for the 2020 Global Teacher Prize. Currently leading a prominent school in Port Harcourt, he continues to inspire the next generation of educators and students. So drawing on his classroom experience and forward-thinking approach, Mr. Okwefa will address the challenges of students' maturity, nurturing childhood genius, and the pathway for student teachers and parents. So over to you. Amen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ngozi. That was really fantastic. Now I'm getting even more excited, and I've been reading this, and I've been reading this all this time. So I want to say once again a huge thank you to all our panelists and everyone for taking out their time to be here. Thank you also to our participants and guests. Keep them coming. The comments are continuing in the chat. I'm really loving reading this, and as I get ready to welcome our special guests or panelists, and everyone is special. We have a full house of VIPs. It's interesting to see that Mrs. Adefisayo, I'm going to be calling you very soon, and she shared in the chat area that she actually got admission and started university at the age of 15. We did say that there's a no judgment zone. But it's amazing and it's fantastic to see how, to see how our different backgrounds, we have from as far as 50, we have some people who have said 25, 21, and this is really what it's about, because by the time, as I said, at the end of this, we would realize that there's so many avenues for collaboration. We can come together and really chart a very smooth, clear path forward, which is the theme. So please join me and make welcome as we invite to the virtual stage for our opening remarks Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, who is also a member of the editorial board of Edutimes Africa, a veteran educator. We've had her introduction. She's of course someone that I would have loved to be in the physical room with, because we would have run to give ourselves a big hug. a great mentor, and just an absolutely fantastic inspiration to me and to many others. Whether you have your virtual hands or you have your hands, and please join me and make welcome to the virtual stage for our opening remarks, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo. Welcome, ma'am. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, Amen. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so it's great to be here. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I looked through the chat room myself, and of course, the topic is so important. I had to do a bit of research that why would parents do that? What happens to the children? Is it fair to the children? How do other educational systems cope? Because actually, it's something that, let me start with my own story and explain why I think very differently now. I was in a set long ago. That was the first set that did WAEC in June. Before then, WAEC was in December, and then you waited a whole year before you go for A levels before going to university. But we were the first set, so I did my SS from 5 then, over a 6-month period, and for 5 months really, May, June, and finished, and I passed. And I will say something which is not, I pass exams. I think I'm very good at passing exams. It seems to be a skill, and I don't. So when students do well, I'm not the kind of person who says, oh, they are extremely intelligent. I have a skill. When I finish reading something, it stays in my brain. So maybe it's a skill, a talent. So I entered UI immediately, and I was just 15. Till today, I wish I hadn't entered, but it was such a fantastic thing to everybody around me that how can a child enter university at that age? I was very young. I went to an all-girls school. I hardly been in class with boys. I couldn't say boo to a goose, as they say. I was so scared of my own shadow. In fact, I used to walk in the middle of like 10 girls. So, and I would be in the middle. So there'd be like 5 girls on either side. So the guy who had the guts to talk to me really had to be a gutsy kind of person indeed. I was so shy. And most importantly, I didn't do well. I didn't do as well as I normally do because I was initially I was a university scholar. And in my first year, I probably came first in my class, and everybody was like, this small girl, you know. But over time, I grew less. I felt peer pressure. I grew less. I was too certain that I would do well, and I didn't do as well as I would normally do. And I still regard my 4 years as kind of like a blot on it all. But after that, of course, I've been doing well the way I've always done well academically. But that was why, as a parent, I looked at my children and said, no, they are going to be emotionally mature before they enter school. You can be intellectually competent, but doesn't follow that you're emotionally mature. But if, perchance, you are lucky enough to have a child who is both emotionally mature and intellectually competent, well, why not? But it's rare, and it rarely happens because you wish it so. It's something that you do intentionally. That child must be equipped with all the skills, the emotional ability to get along with many people, to be able to be strong. Because don't forget, there was a class I had that I used to run there to be first to enter class. Because if I entered late, the boys would erupt. They would be shouting, making fun of me that I was a baby. And one day I actually started crying. So I just wasn't ready for that kind of environment. And so as a parent, I was very intentional about the fact that I don't care what everybody around me said, no, if the child failed, let the child do it in primary, do common entrance in primary 5. If they all did and they all passed, but I always insisted, no, get to 6, be mature. And I actually enjoyed the maturity of my children when they entered secondary school. I think, like I said, it all depends on you. And so when we hold these conversations, I want us all to be open-minded and not say, no, I can't waste money on year 12 or on year 6, or why should I do this? My child is already tall, and even some people guys, she's already busty, and so what? Physical growth has nothing to do with emotional and intellectual maturity. So you've got to look at a child and the uniqueness of each child. So I actually studied this and said, look, how do other systems cope with it when parents insist on their underage children going on to the next level of education, whereas they're not of age, of the country's agreed age? I looked into many systems, and what I saw was that there is always a minimum age in almost every country. They say, you can only enter university at 16, you enter primary school at 6 or 5 or whatever. But there are exceptions. And I think the problem with us in Nigeria is that we haven't set out the exceptions. So I think we need to set out exceptions. If a child is going to be promoted from primary 4 to primary 6, then there must be certain tests. First, the parents must consent. They must have their consent. And secondly, we really need to test the child's ability. You have 9-year-olds who go to university, but they are outliers. They are very unusual. So again, I urge us all during the course of this very, very important conversation to remember to keep our eye on the child and not on ourselves. Not to boast that my child entered school at 12, but to say I did the best for my child. Thank you very much. So have great deliberations.
Thank you so much, Mr. Defisayo. Thank you very much. And there's something you said here that was, of course, really jumped out. Being intentionally competent, but are you emotionally mature? And since I have you on the virtual stage already, we're getting ready to go into our session where we're going to be asking questions. And we would actually like to start with you. we'll actually like to start with you and just continue the flow from here. Thank you for opening the floor with us, because we're talking about this, and this is what we're discussing with you: the school age appropriate policy and how it affects the future of a child. And you have shared your personal experience, and I think it's very important for people to be able to have that chance to reflect, so that more parents can hear this. So I want to start with the first question. I want to just dig a bit deeper into something you said. What are the benefits of aligning a child's admission age with their emotional and intellectual maturity? So if there's anyone who's going to be watching this later, or people who, are still debating or contemplating, what would we tell them? For a parent who might be listening to this and they want to have their 14-year-old go into college, for example.
There's something about the stars aligning and being perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
Physically, the child is physically, and don't forget, children grow faster now because of diet and so on. So, and it's so important that they're emotionally capable, even more than intellectually capable, because being emotionally capable means they're going to face all sorts of situations in college. What I used to tell my parents when I was still running school is that do you want your 14-year-old in the same environment with experienced, 19, 20-year-olds who will laugh at the child and make the child do things that he or she shouldn't do because he or she wants to belong?
Yes, to fit in.
Is it mature enough to say no? Can he say no yet? So, if you have a child who is strong, mature, is able to say no, well, why not? But again, I worry because intellectual competence, I did have a child who was very brilliant, always, blah, blah, blah. She didn't do school start and went for A-levels. She didn't do as well as she did not. Mainly because she was in a class of very clever students, and she had been used to being top in class, and so she wasn't strong enough. She was so unhappy that people are so clever, unlike before where she was so sure she would be top in class, and she didn't do as well as she should have. So again, intellectually competent doesn't mean that the child is emotionally capable. It's important that the stars align.
Yes, I like that. The stars align. I'm going to be visualizing that now whenever I think about this. Let the stars align. And now you're saying this, especially for us in Nigeria. I also did a lot of research and look at different countries to see what their age. We still have that. We still have that here in the States. We have people who are still, let my child just go earlier. But then you find at some stage you get stuck. But I want to look at it from a Nigerian perspective. How do cultural expectations in Nigeria impact parents' decisions on when to enroll their children in school? Because you have mentioned things like, I hear things like parents say, let them go, they're clever, they love the boast. She's very intelligent, or she went to school at 15. But what are the things, what are some of the things that you've seen? How do our cultural expectations in Nigeria make us make this so rampant, in our culture? How do they impact parents' decisions?
I think we always say peer pressure when we talk about teenagers. But yes. I see that peer pressure is also something that we need to talk about when we talk about parents. Everybody should look at, every child is unique. I like to use 3 adjectives. I hope I'm right. So that's a grammatical term. Unique, peculiar, and bespoke. There's no second one. Even identical twins are different from each other. You have to understand your child. Can I trust this child? In fact, in an environment, not just trust, is it fair for me to send this 14-year-old into an adult environment? Has she shown evidence of maturity, of being able to make the right choices, of being able to weigh decisions, of making the right friends, of moving the right company, of not allowing the noise of university to get to her? Have I trained this child sufficiently? Have I seen signs of this? If you haven't, it's best for you not to do it. So for me, it always must be the child. But we worry too much about what other people think. Maybe most people. I don't really care. I don't really care. What I care about is what is best for my child. If your child went to school from primary 5, good for you. But this child of mine is not going to school. at that age, and that is just that. Well, I think we should be able to manage peer pressure, cultural, a lot of noise, cultural noise around us.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, thank you. And I think some people are really doing a great job of summarizing some of your points in the chat area. Thank you, Mrs. Chola Bankole, for also doing that, and some other people, which is fantastic. And I want to just say this, some of these things you said. So I've taken that. Aligning the stars and then being emotionally capable is so important. Can your child really say no? We've seen many pitfalls. We've seen the long-term effects of what it means to push your child into an environment they're not ready for. And I'm really glad that you've set the pace for today's conversation. I want to say a big thank you to you, and I'm going to get ready to invite our next panelist. Thank you so much, man. It's great to see you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm always happy to see you.
Thank you, ma. Thank
Great
you.
educationist.
Bless you, ma. Thank you so much. And I'm sure, hopefully, you're still with us on the call for some time. Before you run off. Also, thank you very much, ma. Okay, ma. Yes. Okay. So we're getting ready to invite our second panelist to the virtual stage. Ms. Adivisayo took the opening remark, and we kept her on the stage since she was there to just flow with the conversation. We're going to be bringing Hajiya Samira up to the virtual stage, and I'm hoping that she's in the house. I haven't had the chance to scroll to check. Hajiya Samira, are you in the house? Dr. Hajiya Samira. Good morning, Dr. Hajiya Samira.
I am in the house. I am in the house. Good morning.
Fantastic. Good morning. Yes. Great to have you here, ma. Thank you so much for honoring
It's my pleasure.
Yes, ma. So I almost forgot the doctor, Dr. Hajiya Samira. Very important. Very important to say that. And so, yes, ma. We have our greetings in the chat area, and I'm going to get ready to dive right in and ask you the questions. Please continue your greetings. Those of us in the chat area, imagine that we're in the same space, send your greetings. If you have questions, don't forget, questions go into the Q&A section of this webinar, all right? Hajiya Samira, as we said, she is the National NAPS President. It's actually a huge position, and it's actually a huge responsibility, and we are really honored to have you here. So we're discussing with you the good in age and maturity alignment and the need to build life skills for the future. And I think those are the words that I love the most in this: life skills for the future. Okay. So I want to actually start with the second question that I have here for you. And it says, what can schools and educators do to support life skills development alongside academic growth? Before you even answer that, Ma, can you share with us what you mean by life skills, or give us examples, and then we dive into that question?
All right. Thank you, the organizers of this webinar, for inviting me. I am honored. Good to see you.
Thank you, Ma.
Fisayo, you are one of a person that I admire, especially when you are the Commissioner of Education in Lagos State.
She's here. She's muted. Okay, she's she's saying thank you, but she's muted. If for any reason Dr. Hajiya Samira's network is still misbehaving, then I would bring up our next speaker, who is going to be Dr. Dairu Sani. I know you came in very early, sir, and I'm looking forward to bringing you up very soon. But
I think Hajiya Samira lost connection, so we go to Dr. Sani now.
Should we just go straight there?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. So I would hold that thought. I will hold that thought for Hajiya Samira, and hopefully we get her to come back in. So please join me and make welcome Dr. Dairu Sani. And he's a founder of Kaduna Business School and vice president of Transcontinental University, Ohio, USA. So if you're wherever you are, you can clap your hands, you can snap your fingers, you can clap. I can't see the virtual hands for some reason on this call, but you can put it in the chat area, put some emojis, make some noise. and make him feel welcome as he comes onto the virtual stage. Dr. Dairusani, are you in the house?
Yes, I'm in the house. Good morning.
Okay, sir. Good morning, sir. Great to have you here. I'm looking forward to having this discussion with you in this conversation. So for you now, many of us have benefited from even the Kaduna Business School and your partnerships. So it's an honor to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So we're talking today with you about entrepreneurial skills development opportunities for post-high school students, and that is a big thing globally. There's a lot of movement again, also here in the States. A lot of things are happening, so we're really excited to dive in on this with you. So I'm going to just start with this question. So what entrepreneurial skills do you believe are most critical for post-high school students in today's economy? So people who have finished secondary school and they're in that in-between stage. What are some of the top entrepreneurial skills that you believe are critical for us to give attention to?
Thank you very much. And let me first of all really appreciate the organizers of this meeting. It's very critical, really, at a time like this and the stage which our country is in, and also for assembling such great speakers. I know I'm going to try and sit through to even listen and learn from others here. But first of all, let me make one point very clear, and I think it's very important for this country as we move forward. I don't know who's listening. I hope bigger people who are in policy positions are listening. When a behavior cements, when a culture cements, you do not make a policy statement and think it would work. So before we go into talking about which entrepreneurial opportunities, I want to make a statement. I want to postulate and make sure that my postulation is sitting on a foundation. So let me first of all establish that foundation. If a policy would work, if this policy can defeat, for example, the people who are going to make forged birth certificates, they are ready now, they are waiting. Okay. The parents who are scared of this economy, and they think that, look, if we don't get our students into higher institutions very quickly, the school fees, is going to get higher. So look, the earlier, the better. The various stakeholders, the university system, they're also hungry. They also want students to come in anyhow. They are even going to be the first set of people to subvert the policy. So it's important for us to understand what I call the systemic foundations around systems, and expected resistance, or what we call unexpected consequences when you make a statement. This is not a department. This is 200 million people, Nigeria struggling to make a living. Some parents, look for God's sake, want those children out there very quickly so that they can graduate and begin to work and earn a living. They are tired of all these issues. So we need to really appreciate what I call you need to set up the systemic background, and I appreciate what we're dealing with here. Nigeria is a very, very complex country. So you don't just say, 16 years, no more, now 18 years, that's the new age. The people are just going to laugh at you. They're going to rearrange themselves, and we're not creating. What we should even be afraid of, first of all, what are we creating? A new black market. Because these children are going to get into school anyhow. Why? The question is why? Because we already have something that is being cemented. The culture is already cemented. You don't just come. It's not like a building that you just crush or you throw a bomb into the building and explodes. This is a social system that we're dealing with here, an educational system. This had to be built. And all those stakeholders have their interests embedded around making sure that if even 13-year-old, the universities will even fight to say, but bring him, we'll arrange it. This is Nigeria. They're arranging certificates, they're arranging all sorts of things. These students are going to get in. Now, see, this is what we'll have done. If I were in the system, if I were the Minister of Education, or if I were part of the system, this is what I would have simply said. It's a very good idea. I like what Mommy told us just now. Yeah. She said emotional maturity is critical.
Critical.
No matter how intelligent a child is, if that child has not reached that emotional, I mean, as just the brain, the way the brain develops, at 16, 18, at 15, it begins to experience what we call separation individuation according to psychologists. And the child is struggling between, being part of a family and then starting to emerge as an individual. It's called separation individuation. That stage is critical in a child's life. So struggling with that and jumping into educational institution is really something that we have to take into serious consideration. So this is what they will have. This is what I would have done. I would have simply said, look, this idea is good, but we cannot just push it in blankets. So this is what we should do. Okay? Bring the stakeholders together. Need to create, a forum of all the ecosystem players as far as higher education is concerned. First of all, the secondary school or the higher schools, I don't know what you call it in Nigeria. High school, I don't know. Okay, but I mean the secondary schools. These are the guys concerned here. You understand? What will they put in place for those 2 years, those intervening years? Because parents don't want their kids lounging at home. We all know that an idle mind is what? The devil's workshop. They should have taken this into consideration. So we have innovation hubs all over the country. Bring these innovation hubs together, align them with the schools. We have skills development centers all over the country.
Yes.
Bring all of these people to all these, agencies together. We have SMIDA, we have all these agencies. Bring all of them together. Along with the secondary school, I said, look, we need to keep these kids busy. There are critical skills that need to be developed. Let's create a structure around the policy. Policy without structure, you are just going to create chaos. You allow people to start groping in the dark, running around, doing different things, finding a way to maintain status quo. That's what's going to happen, and that's what's happening. And I'm so excited that we're bringing the conversation up today. So when you bring all this, I'm saying what I would have done. When we bring all these people together, what we then do is, okay, now we need these kids to get into school at 18, 19 or whatever. They're graduates, they're finished, yes, they're doing well, they're intelligent, yes. They can keep their JAM scores. That would have been fantastic. Maintain their JAM scores, give the JAM score validity. Say 3-4 years validity. So they're happy. In the meantime, we can follow, there's several models. One of the ones I allude to a lot is the Japanese model of Ikigai. Ikigai. So what the Japanese do, is that they allow young people to discover themselves around this period. Everything has been A, B, C, passing grades and all that. This is a beautiful time for them to experience what we call that self-discovery. With Ikigai, you begin to ask a person who is philosophically developing, because yes, educationally you develop, but again, around that 16, 17, you begin to ask yourself questions about life. You begin to have what I call the philosophical development. Now, that philosophical development is when you can now pose a question to a child. What are you here for? That's the first question the Japanese will ask. What am I here for? The next thing is, what does the world need? Now, these are going to be transmuted into what I call modules. You're going to gather these kids together and they're going to work on these projects. First project is what you are here for. Why do you exist? Why were you born? What does the world need? Have you ever wondered, for example, for distinguished listeners and my panelists, why there's a Japanese car in every country? Why Toyota is everywhere? Have you ever thought about it? It's born out of all these philosophies. Then after you ask yourself, what does the world need? Or in this case, we can frame it and design it our way and say, what does Nigeria need? What do Nigerians need? The next thing is, another module will be, what are you good at? What do you love? Something must come from within the individual. The thought process must start from the individual. Let them be the one to hatch this process. And there must be a structure around it. So I've asked what am I here for? Why was I born in the first place? I've asked, what does the world need? Or if you want to bring it down, say, what does Nigeria need? I've asked, what are you good at? You've done 6 years of secondary school, 5 years. What did you discover that you're good at? And then what are you falling in love with? What do you love? The next question then is, what ventures, what are the ventures that are coalescing around this thing that you like? What is your vocation? What is your vocation? Then after that, you now begin to ask, how can you be paid for this? How can you be paid for this? So these are the foundation that you create in the mind of a child within this 1 or 2 years, that when he's now eventually moving into a higher institution, he can enter the higher institution with that frame of mind.
Fantastic.
So he will even approach his discipline, whether it's architecture, whatever, medicine, whatever, with a philosophical mindset that creates an entrepreneurial graduate. Ultimately, there's so much to put into this process, but let's hope that I've started putting the conversation around what you asked, really, which
Thank
is,
you.
yeah.
Yes,
so
sir.
Okay, go ahead. Yes.
No, please go on. Yeah, you have about 1 minute. I'm loving the direction you started, which I think I'm like, why didn't we start you on this policies and that systemic breakdown you started with has totally. There's a lot of mind-blowing comments, and people are a lot of insight from what you have said. So
thank you.
Yeah, so we have about 1 minute. We want to hear more and more from you, but you have about 1 minute, and then we're going to come back at the second.
Okay, so absolutely. So yes, so again, like I said, no policy, no structure, rubbish. What you do is you create another problem.
Exactly.
We call it fixes that fail. By the time we look at this matter in another 2 years, you'll find out that even younger people have gone into the system and we have created a bigger mess. What we'll then be trying to deal with will then be a wicked problem, which is a combination of the current problem and dealing with the new problem that we've created as a result of trying to intervene with a policy that is ill-prepared. So the opportunities available with artificial intelligence, you can imagine, it's like endless opportunities available for young people today, particularly at that age where they're still, they can still be properly guided. But let me since I just have a minute to go, we shall move this conversation forward when I come in again, if I'm going to come in again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, this was really fantastic. I wish we were just giving you like the free flow, just speak from the heart, because this was from the heart. And something you said, policy without structure creates chaos. This recording is going to be like gold. We make sure we have to share it at the highest levels. The systemic resistance, you spoke about it. What does Nigeria need? What does this country need? One of the things we ask our kids here is, what problem do you intend to solve with what you are going to study? So it's not just about, we're like, okay, you're going to make some money, good, but what problem are you going to solve? They're all studying, different things totally. And so when you're thinking that way, you're thinking also at a higher level, which is something you have said. So thank you so much, sir. That was just really honestly such a lovely direction to take this conversation. Hadia Samira is back, and I think her network is better. So I'm going to see if we can bring her back up. And then we would go with our fourth speaker. After our fourth speaker, we have the poll. And then we'll be handing over, Ngozi will be taking the second part while I get ready to go to work. Also, so Hadia Samira, I'm checking,
right.
testing.
Yes.
Yeah, get to see your face.
Yeah, good to see you. So sorry about that, glitches.
Yes.
And I'm glad that this really happened, because Dr. Sani's discussion and perspectives are really giving me background to a real fundamental, solid ground to what I'm going to speak about. And I know before the glitches happened, I was actually happy to be here and to meet Mrs. Defisayo virtually. Like said, I wish it was an in-thing and then we could help. One time, another time we give us that opportunity.
Yes,
thank you very much, everyone that is here. And was asking me before I got off abruptly about skills for the future. And from the discourse from Dr. Dairu Sani, honestly speaking, the policies and structure are quite important when we are looking at these things. I recall when trade skills was introduced to all schools.
Yes,
apparently, these things was thrown at us, school owners and public schools or whichever. There was no teachers on ground, no curriculum, no anything. Mrs. Ajala is here. And we were battling who would teach these skills, trade skills as they were called. Eventually, those trade skills just become examination skills. They become another examination papers for these students. And most schools have to get people from the street, from the public, who are not teachers, to come in and teach this. Mostly, there was no practicality about it. And that is what Dr. Sani is talking about. Without policy without structure, create chaos. And that was what had happened. So you see that schools are doing things like bookkeeping, data analysis that could just give them the normal thing, the theoretical learning, and the children sit for the exams and they pass that. Thank you for Dr. Sani for this. I want to also say one thing. Even when the government do the policies or the structures, it is so unfortunate that they come out with very grandiose objectives, development strategies, and so on and so forth. But implementation is always another thing. Again, you discover that the people on ground, the people that actually know these things, that are supposed to be part of the planning, part of the decision making, part of the policies, are never invited. Like the Dr. Sani who is giving us this perspective, you will never see them inviting them. It becomes a politicized something, a committee. And these things are thrown to us. Implementation becomes a problem. However, going forward, for us as educators, to look at skills is very important for the future. Dr. Sani has said one thing. Sorry, I'm leveraging too much on what you are saying, Dr. Sani, but it's quite important and it's part of what I do. The children must know what they want, their interest area. What am I good for? What do I need to do? Sometimes they can even try all hands in different spheres or spaces. Today, somebody can try to be a musician, to learn music, try to be on the farm. Why are we teaching agric in the classrooms? In my school, we teach agric on the farm. The children go to the farm. But how many schools could provide those things because of the size and population and everything? The children learn bricklaying. During our time, we do handwork, knitting, crocheting, sewing our clothes. The children can no longer do that now. Even when the clothes is sewn, they are looking for these workers that will come and sew it for them. From the home, we are not even teaching our children how to have skills, how to learn skills. So if a child knows this is my interest area, allow that child to be there. Some can be footballers. Most of the time, our educational system is one size cut for all. A child must be intelligent, must be brilliant, must everything, that's all, and pass examinations. And like it said, most of these things create problems. By the time we run into chaos, we create additional problems for the society and for these children. Skills are very important. Ms. Ajala is on this call. And even MM, we have been at the skills sector, and we've been trying to push to see how these vocational centers can be done, how we can have skills for the students, how we can equip the children for the future. It should be something that will open their mind, that they could be able to solve problems, even problem shoot, and then look for solution And by looking for a solution, that solution becomes a way of making money, and they become entrepreneurs. That's what entrepreneurs are for. But the theoretical framework and the deliberation and the implementation and strategies are always chaotic. And that's why we have the problems. Again, if we are sure that these children actually know exactly what they want, there are so many skills, even the ones that are very, the technical, the digital line, like artificial intelligence, programming, coding, and so on and so forth. People make money from that. They solve problems. We can't run away from technology. In actual sense, we live technology. We don't use technology, we live technology. Be that as it may, now going forward, if it doesn't happen, schools must be intentional about putting all these things, even from the discovery, the early stages, hands-on activities. Most parents expect their children to start counting 1 to 1,000 at the age of 2, 3. Does that solve our problem? But when it's hands-on, there have been activities. The STEM should be STEM line should be explored. All those projects should be explored. They are not for decoration or put in our classes or in the laboratory. Then they become something else that eventually we throw away. No follow-up. Research. We must even teach the children to have the notion of making researches and making the product themselves. There is nothing that they cannot make that is not already made in the world. But theirs is to make it and be more creative about it, more innovative about whatever they are doing. And in our schools, we should be able to do that. Garment making and so on and so forth. I'm running out of time, right? Or should I continue?
I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this so much because my brain is. I'm hoping that people. I'm seeing the comments, and we just realized that the comments have actually been coming just to us, the hosts and panelists. Meanwhile, we've had some really amazing comments in the chat area. So you have about one more minute, Ma. There's so many things you've said here that I would recap once you're done. About life skills and all that. Please continue, Ma. So you have about 1 minute, and then we would take it from there.
Even the life skills should include soft skills.
Yes.
That will enable the child to cope with the society, to cope with himself as a person. Communication skills, soft skills that align them with understanding, perspectives, respect for one another. Those soft skills too are very important to be able to manage the skills that they are going to have and they are going to use for the future. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Can we see some hands clapping in the chat area and just some love? There's some things you said here, but this is really good. And you also reiterated some of the things that Dr. Zahiru Sani had said. You said the policies and structure are so important. And when you said, who will teach these things? This was like a practical way to look at the misalignment sometimes when we have policies and when the structure is not in place. So even just that question alone is actually quite deep. Who will teach these things? You can't just throw out policies and then there's no one there for it. And then this thing about soft skills should be included with life skills. Very important. The more we're in the workforce now, you see people who they may seem mature, they don't have those basic skills. They're not able to work with other people. So things like that too. So thank you so much, Hajia Samira. It's really great to see you. I love forums like this when I feel like I'm catching up with family and my senior colleagues. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you're still staying on board also.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma. Bless you. It's really great to have you. And our fourth speaker for this first half of the session, she also joined really early. We're going to be inviting Mrs. Angela Ajala. She's going to be coming to the virtual stage, so please join me and make welcome. And then we will do a poll And we would now go to the second half of the program, which would be, after even from the poll, would be led by Ngozi. Ngozi will be leading that part. So Mrs. Ajala, I know that you are in the house because you joined in quite early, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the virtual stage very soon. Please don't forget, if you have questions, move your questions to the Q&A section of the webinar. And then if you have the chat, many of you are helping us to break down the conversation. You're sharing some valuable comments, which we hugely appreciate. So please keep at it, keep at it. Keep putting them there. We're really appreciating that. So I'm looking at Mrs. Ajala.
Yes, please.
Oh, there you are. Oh, good morning, ma. Yeah, see, we're trying to behave all civilized and everything and not be family. So we're getting ready to go straight to work, and I'm hoping that our network would also behave well. So Ngozi had done the introductions earlier. Mr. Jala's screen has frozen, but I'm just going to read a little bit of summary of what we're going to be discussing. Mrs. Angela Jala is the national coordinator for ANWBN, and she heads a lot of women organizations, platforms, associations, huge numbers in the thousands. And she's an education entrepreneur. These are very mild ways, this is all being, these are very humble ways of saying all these things. She's a powerhouse and a force, a dynamic force. And just like how we have Ajia Samira, we have very simple summaries. We're all using like two words to to introduce ourselves when they're like booklets, I'm just like Ajia Samira, trying to introduce her in one sentence, or and many of us. So her network has thrown her out, but I'm going to just say what her discussion point is. We're going to be discussing how parents and schools can align age and maturity through building future skills. We've used the term skills quite a bit. We've used the terms entrepreneurship. I'm going to count down 30 seconds in my head once again, and hopefully she is able to join back. Hopefully her network is working. If not, we will decide whether to go straight to the poll and then she joins the second half, or we would either bring up one of our other speakers. So Dapo and Adebe, you can let me know if that's something you want us to do.
Let's run to the polls.
We'll run to the poll. Okay, so we're still giving about 30 seconds to see if she's able to come back up. If she's not, then we'll do the poll, and I would hand over to you from there. We'll do the polls, and then after the poll, Ngozi would take over the conversation from there, and I will be listening in as I go to work. So Ngozi and Nogeru, she'll be taking over. So 30 seconds, we're still counting down. But how's it been? We've had a great experience. The chat area is just is smoking. I'm loving the
awesome.
I'm telling you, we have some great participants. For people who, this is your day off. I don't have a day off. I'm going to work. But for those people who have a day off, have dedicated their morning, to join this conversation. We're truly grateful to have you here. Thank you for the very, very insightful comments. There are many experts on that, and you might even be on the panel, but there's so many experts you can see even from the chat area. So
sorry, I got locked out.
Oh, she is back. Fantastic.
Yes, welcome back.
Okay.
Sorry, here.
Okay, that's good. So I'm just getting ready for you, and I introduced you already, and I said we're going to be talking about how parents and schools can align age and maturity through building future skills. We've used the terms skills quite a bit, as we said. We've spoken about, but I'm trying to see if I can join these questions. I have two questions for you, but let me see which one I want to start with. How can schools, the school communities and parents work together to ensure that age and maturity align for students' academic growth and future skills development? How do we work together so that our students, or when they come out into the workforce, like here, there's something they say is either you're going to be enlisted, employed, or there's something else they say. They have like these 3 E's. So when you finish high school, you must be useful. So there's something you're going to be doing. You're either going to be joining the force, you're going to be enrolled in something else, higher education, or you are going to be employed. So there's something that you're doing. So how can schools and parents work together to ensure that this age and maturity align for students' academic growth and future skills development.
Okay, thank you very much. We go back to some of the things that have been said by some of the panelists. Synergy with stakeholders, because the government can be doing something different and we are doing something different. It's all about the Nigerian child, and it's important that there's a synergy with all stakeholders. I remember when we thought the curriculum was a bit outdated and we needed some vibe in it. And we went to see the Minister of Education then, to see how do they have a committee on that? How can the private sector, how can our voices be heard in that curriculum development? They felt we wanted to come and take their job, or we just wanted to put our input there because we're the ones on the field also. And we thought through research we could work together with them. But that wasn't welcome then. It's important for government to see that we're partners in progress and we must be on the same page. Now, looking at the age issue, we need to see what is the policy sensitization and the implementation framework that needs to be in place. And when I was looking at it, I was thinking, should we begin to also take a gap year, in Nigeria? Should we look at the issue of a gap year? When is it appropriate to take that gap year? Is it after the JS3 before you enter the senior secondary? You take off a year to put in all the skills necessary to align yourself with what the future will look like, to see the process, the path, the career you want to take, and to have a chance to build all the soft skills that will be needed. And then when you come back into senior secondary, you are a bit matured, you are settled, you already have a direction of the future, you can finish SS3, with a more better approach and stability to enter the tertiary institution, looking at things like that. Those are the conversations we should be having, because children are losing their childhood. They're no longer growing. They're just pushed immediately into what they are not ready for. We should remember that childhood is not a race. And as educators also, we should lean towards, kindling fires. Our curriculum, our teaching methodologies should work towards how we are arousing curiosity, using creativity in the classrooms, using project-based learning that will help the children to solve real-world problems and build the skills we want to see, and go back from the era of just information, cramming, and all that, so that we can all together work. And some of the strategies we're thinking we can work together with schools, there must be open communication, between schools and parents. We must have those conversations, either at our parent-teachers forums or whatever it is, so that parents begin to understand each child's developmental milestones, how it is different, how the emotional well-being is important, so that we're on the same page. Many schools are not on the same page with their parents. We're not carrying them along. They are parents. Some of them don't know any better. So that open communication is one strategy we must work at. We must also begin to speak about holistic education so that we are promoting a balanced approach. There's no way we can do academics and not balance it with the emotional, with the social, and the physical development. It is a holistic thing, because we're preparing children for real-world challenges, and we need to align their personal growth with their academic expectations. Parents don't even know this. They are just eager. They want to brag. They want to boast. My child has finished at the age of 14. Finished to do what? To go and do what? You are throwing the child amongst wolves. And so you don't even know any better. It is in our place as schools to be intentional about bringing parents on board in the things we are doing. Our guidance and counseling, we need to offer children, provide insights into the age-appropriate expectations and the developmental milestones that will make sure that every student receives the support, parents are in the loop, the information is there for everybody, and they can begin to see what we are doing. So that's very important as far as I'm concerned. And schools need to begin to change their method, even scientifically. I was reading a scientific thing about the development of the brain, and they were saying, at the age of 12, that is even when a particular part of the brain matures, something special, something. Then at the age of 18 to 25, that is when the frontal lobe matures. So there are certain things that have not even matured when we throw the children out into the world. And we need to make sure that we're putting this conversation out there. Then, when we talk about strategies that we can also use to encourage a well-rounded development, I don't know if you want me to quickly speak to that. You are muted.
Yes, please, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, please. Yes,
okay.
Please.
Okay, then. Whatever we do as a school, we must put side by side the parents' version. so that they can be in the loop with us. So if as a school, we offer career counseling, we offer workshops to expose our children to the different career paths, we're providing internships, we're looking at what they can do, we should also make sure parents are encouraging those discussions at home. They are offering support in terms of researching those options, in terms of helping their children understand the practical implications of their academic choices. Anything we do, that support, that working with parents is so important. We can't do much without their input, without their support, because their mindset is different. A parent is looking at how to cut short the payment of fees. Instead of paying fees for 3 years, can I just do 2 years and save 1 year's fees and let the child move into this class and all that? The parent is not seeing the implications and what it is and how it will affect the personal growth and success of the child. And so we must have an informational session regularly with our parents, showing them what we are doing. Soft skills development, we must incorporate. It is not, the skills is the future. Many people know that skills is the future. So any school that is not intentional about skills now, will have a problem, because that is the future. Because we must begin to incorporate the soft skills into our curriculum. How will helping the children to learn teamwork, communication, adaptability, leadership? How are we encouraging them to lead group activities, to participate in debates, to do peer mentoring, because these are the things they will need in life. And as we do this with them, we are also sharing with the parents how the parents can reinforce these skills at home by giving their children more responsibility, making sure they engage in community activities, allowing them to lead family discussions, make this, so the type of assignments and homeworks we give, it will help the parents to know better and to bring out the type of things they also want the children to do. So I think it is something we need to work together with them. We can't just be doing it and we're not carrying them alone. Can there be exceptions? When we talk about the gifted and the exceptional child, people say yes, there can be exceptions. But in the place of exception, the child is still a child. And so, what is the place of the framework that looks at the gifted child? What is the criteria that says this is a gifted child? You are going to waste the time of the child if you allow the child to do this next class. There's no framework in place. There's no standard in place. We all just take it as it is, and some schools even take it as what their parents want. A parent will skip nursery class 2 and jump to primary 1. We skip primary 6, jump to GS1. We'll skip, and then later in life, we should be the ones educating them. We should be the ones telling them the right things to do and making sure that in our own schools, for the school of today, you can't do without looking at mental health, emotional intelligence. You can't global awareness, cultural competence. The curriculum has changed. Forget the subjects we're teaching. The curriculum has changed for the global world our children are going into. So we must prepare them. And we are not only preparing our children, we have seen that it is now time and very important to prepare the parents too, to be on the same page and to understand what the future is looking like. In the long run, it is the personal success of the child that is important to us. And we need to share that larger picture with every parent in our community. Thank you very much.
Woo! Can someone fan the flames? This is hot. This is getting so hot and absolutely mind-blowing. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ajala. I've taken down, I can see the chat area. We have some fantastic people who they are summarizing all the points and they're putting them out there. There's something you said here, that partners in progress. We are not the enemy. We are not trying to take away or compete with the government, but we must work together. You spoke about policy sensitization. So you can't just jump out and give a policy and then you expect people to abide by it when you haven't sensitized people. And one of the most touching statements you made, children are losing their childhood. This is something I was talking about last week, with our children and some other people. Everyone wants to. I don't know where everyone is rushing to, But then there comes a time in life you wish, I wish I was a child again. Open communication with parents, holistic education, maturity, side by side. Show parents what you are doing. Absolutely fantastic, Mr. Jala. You're always really a force when it comes to dishing out such great value. So everything has tied in. Can you see the amazing people that we have? We're gonna get ready to go to the poll very soon, and then we have the next half of the conversation, the discussions with Dr. Babatunde Obrima, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer, Ms. Nkechi Obi and Mr. Olusokomi Okwefa will be speaking. So I will be watching that on my commute. I'm really excited and I'm really honored to be here co-moderating this conversation. It's been something else. For those of you who have spoken already, thank you so much. You don't even know what you, I mean, it's just, we really had no idea what direction it would go. So you've all brought your A game and we truly appreciate you. So over to you, Adebi and Dapo, as you get ready for the poll, and I will be watching. And then Ngozi, you'll be coming up for the next half of the the sessions, okay? Thank you. So those of us, please keep the chats going in the chat area, and take it from there, okay? All right.
Yeah, thank you, Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you for that session, and welcome, Ngozi. I think the poll is live now, so people can just, put up their
alternative education
just
options.
vote.
So the government.
Yeah. So
Okay.
please feel free to actually vote. So Ngozi,
Yes, please.
take it away.
All right then. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have the polls live, as Adebi just said. So we would like you to please go ahead with the poll so that we'll get your response as quick as possible. All right. So we have the questions right there for you. Pick and choose. I mean, where it tilts for you. It depends on where it tilts for you. So go ahead and pick and choose. All right. All right. So we'll launch and see what the final outcome of the poll would be like. What you think the alternative education option should be, what skill do you believe the government should provide in terms of finances, right? So all of those questions are right there for you to respond to. Just a couple of questions, not many. 3 questions as I see right now. So let's go ahead and vote. Okay. Okay. So just let me know when we can move on to I think we can give a couple of minutes so that we'll get a feel of how much the response, what the response will be like, right? What do you think?
Oh yes, let's just give a couple of minutes more.
Yeah. Okay. So
I guess some people may be doing it from their mobile devices and
absolutely
find it to read on their screens. Yeah. So in a couple of minutes, I think we already have like about 50%, more than 50% participation already on the polls. So
awesome.
I just need a couple of.
Okay then. Okay, so our next panelist should be ready so that we can go on after the polls. Okay. So like Imen stated, we'll be taking the other panelists that we haven't heard from. I'm sure they have something very valuable to share with us. So well done again to the organizers. This is beautiful.
Okay, I guess the poll can end now.
All right, great. Okay, so we have given enough time. Okay, so we whilst we went here, we did take your we introduced you. So Mr. Akintunde Sawyer is the MD of Nigerian Education Loan Fund. Just going to dive right into it, and your discussion area is to helping us with the need to avoid rushing through school and the provision of funding intervention. So that's your area, sir. Okay, so my first question to you, sir, is why is it important to avoid rushing students through school, especially in their early years?
Okay, so I think, the answer is really in the question. I think rushing anything is, pretty dangerous, really, because it's open to all sorts of risks and not really giving consideration to the things around it. So when you say rushing children through school, I think that the big issue with it is that there are certain things or certain steps in the education process that require you to have reached a certain level of maturity so that the individual, the child, can actually absorb the knowledge that is being put in front of them and absorb it in a proper way. Because education is like having building blocks, one thing on top of the other, until you attain the level of knowledge that is required or adequate. And if you rush that process, then actually things get lost along the way. There are obviously good reasons why people do that, but generally it's not a good thing to do. Having said that, you do have, because we're all individuals and we all have different learning rates and different levels of functioning, there are obviously some risks with children who are perhaps very, very bright and not allowing them to attain their potential. So, you will see examples of children all of the same age in a class, and one of them or some of them are exceptionally bright. And if you don't push them to reach their potential, what tends to happen is that they become bored and uninterested, and they can actually regress. So in as much as we're saying that in general we should allow children to grow and mature along with the learning or the teaching that's being given to them, we should also recognize that in certain cases there are gifted children who perhaps need to be stretched a little bit more. But generally, I think that peer groups and having children of the same age within a class group is a good thing, because apart from the academic side of it, there's a sort of natural developmental experience that they get from being in class with children of a similar age.
Okay, thank you so much. One of the things that you just shared that jumped at me is, not having to create room where a gifted child is bored, right? So, which brings me to, really, there is something called differentiation. So if you have children who are, they might be very bright, but there's a way the teacher can structure the learning experience such that the child's need is also catered to. All right. So I'll just quickly ask you the next question. So what kind of loan structures or grants could be developed to support students who choose to take gap years for maturity or skill development?
Okay, so I guess, gap years can be important in terms of allowing students to consolidate either on the knowledge they've already acquired, or to enable them to be able to explore and go out and get exposure in a non-classroom environment that allows them to be well prepared for, either returning into the learning level that they were at, or perhaps to be able to reconnect into the program that they were doing before. But in terms of financing structures, I think, it's important to recognize that everything gets more expensive, including education. So one of the reasons that people want to rush through their education and get to a point where, ultimately they start earning, one of the reasons they like to push that process is because they believe, and it's often the case, that education will get more expensive. If you take a year out, by the time you get back into the learning level that you ought to be at or that you need to be at next, costs have gone up. So I guess one of the ways in which this can be mitigated is if some sort of agreement is reached with the learning institution that fees for an individual who's taking time out, who's taking a gap year, will be frozen at the level that it was at before they left the institution. So that's one opportunity. And another is to ensure that funds are being saved up for the education when they go back, so that that gap year isn't just one where, you know, the funds that may be available get wasted. You know, and I guess that can be applied to insurance. It can be applied to loans. You know, you can take loans up front. It can be applied using savings plans or savings policies. But yeah, it's like anything, you know, if you take time out or you don't make a decision now against something that has a cost implication and you want to leave it for a year, the cost will go up. That's just inevitable. That's the way things work across the world.
Okay, thank you so much. This is really appreciated, and we'll definitely jump on the information that you have shared with us. And for the first part, really, is something that both parents and teachers and school owners need to really pay attention to. So a child who is gifted should never be allowed to regress. That's a very, very key area. No child who is gifted should, you know, be made to experience that regression in terms of as a result of probably the quantum of work or the quality of, you know, exercises given to that child in the classroom. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Can I make one other very quick point?
Okay.
Is there time for that? Is there time for that?
We'll take it. Okay, just give us one. Yes, quickly. Let's take it.
Okay, it's really just an example. So if you look at a course like medicine, so a child graduates and becomes a doctor, and if you rush that child through school, you can actually become a doctor at the age of 20, maybe 21, and you can be exceptionally bright and get distinctions all the way through. But look, what does a doctor do? Sometimes a doctor has to break bad news to an individual or to a family to say, hey, a person has HIV, or they have cancer, or they have any other terminal illness. You can't expect somebody who isn't mature enough to sit with a family and deliver news that's going to break the heart of the family, break the heart of the individual. Because, you know, a child, you know, or a young person that is not mature enough, even though they understand the technicality of the illness, you can't expect them to break that news with the sort of empathy that you would expect perhaps a 45-year-old doctor to break the news with. So I just wanted to add that sometimes it's not just about academic prowess or achievement, it's also about the maturity that is demanded of you if you're a judge or a doctor, because a judge might need to sentence someone to life imprisonment, to death perhaps in certain countries. You have to be of a certain level of maturity to be able to deliver a judgment like that. So thank you. I just wanted to add that into the mix.
Thank you very much. It was quite insightful. Yes, which reminds me again of Mrs. Adefisayo's opening speech. You know, so it becomes very, very critical to ensure that these children are both emotionally ready, and they need to be really mature to take on the world that is before them, right? So thank you so much, sir. I would be calling on you as we progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So we were progressing to Miss Nkechi Obi. Miss Nkechi Obi, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, sir.
I've been here from the onset.
Amazing. And you look good.
Heard everybody, yeah. I heard everybody speak. Yes.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And we are very, very, very elated to have you. Welcome, ma'am. And thank you, and well done for what you're doing. The work you're doing, we really, it's a very peculiar space. I mean, the sport. So it's a different space entirely. Well done, ma'am. Okay, so all right. So Miss Nkechi Obi is the convener, Sports Africa Investment Summit, and our discussion area with you has to do with the sports pathway that can restore hope for post-high school students. So, like I said, this is a very key area. So, how can the sports industry collaborate with educational institutions to provide opportunities for young high school graduates, especially now that we're looking at what we can do, where we have, 16 versus 18, the pathway, as we're trying to create this pathway, what can we do? This gap here that we have in our hands, how can we use them positively in our country, Nigeria? So,
okay. Yes, thank you very much. I listened to everybody speaking, and they spoke about policies, they spoke about skill acquisitions, skill acquisition, spoke about particularly the creative industry. So we had the fashion, we had agri, we had all kinds of skills. And I never heard anybody say anything about sport.
That was why I say the special area.
Oh, and for me, it was a little sad. In this, it was a little sad because it meant that the values of sport, that when you imbibe them in school, they serve you throughout your life. It means that in schools today, we are not doing enough sport or doing any at all. Therefore, we are not pushing those values. And it's because we're not pushing, and I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility. When you meet somebody who has played sport from school, right, their attitude to life is totally different. They learn, because sport teaches you how to learn to lose gracefully. It teaches you teamwork.
Absolutely.
So you learn to work with people. It teaches you perseverance and resilience, because without it, you cannot climb, you cannot hone your skills, you can't play in the clubs, you can't. It teaches you so many things. I could reel out. It teaches you inclusivity. You must depend on your team members. If it's a team sport, without your team members, you are not going to achieve anything. And even if it's a solo sport, without your coaches, your team that caters to your training, you wouldn't achieve anything. So I find it a little bit odd that wasn't an area that anybody looked at. But then, of course, I'm now here to let you know that you mentioned something about gap years. And honestly, I was so glad someone else mentioned it. I like to think of this. I'm one of those who believes that no child should go to university at 16. My daughter finished secondary school at 16, and I said she wasn't going anywhere except maybe to learn a trade, some kind of trade. So I put her into Yaba College of Tech for 2 years. She's very artistic, so I said, go. She has started running her own fashion label at 13. So I said, okay, go learn, spend 2 years learning. And she did the ND program. And it's only after that she went off to school, university, and she's reading integrated rural art and industry now. But she was more mature. She became streetwise. She learned to live with people. Therefore, going away out of the country was no longer a problem. So I'm sorry about this, but I'm a total, what's the word I will use now? I'm totally in sync with the fact that you should go to school at 18. Now, what do we do between 16 and 18? So I'm also an adherent of the gap year system. Incidentally, my daughter finished at 50. She had a gap year. She had 1 year of just going and doing the things in the field of work she wanted to be in, her interests. So art, podcast, and this go to work as intern here or there. So she's experienced all of those things. I also had 1 year before I entered university, because at that time, we were the first set of JAM. At that time, I did A-levels, and we were the first set of JAM direct entry, and I wanted to go to IFE, but I wanted to study pharmacy, but I didn't get the cutoff marks for pharmacy in IFE, and I wanted to change to Unilag. At that time, they didn't allow you to change, so I had to spend 1 year, and I'm eternally grateful for that 1 year. Every day, I'm grateful I had that 1 year, because by the time I got into university, I was working as an account officer with a broadcast station, and I met the kind of people I met in the nature of my work was such that by the time I got into university, I even felt the university students were beating my job for the experience that I had. So I see that gap year from the point of view of sports, and let me give you one very cogent statistic that might make it important for us to look at sports as a solution. So here's the thing. We have, when we did our research with the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, we were working on the sports policy, we determined that if you made it compulsory for any school to actually, that had about 400 students, to actually engage the services of a games master, to take the students, first and foremost, you must have compulsory sports, then you must have a games master to take the sports, and not just maybe the physics teacher knows how to run a bit, so you tell him to double. A proper games master. You would need in the neighborhood of about 100,000 games masters or mistresses. We have less than 10,000. So there's a 90,000. There's a 90,000 gap waiting to be filled, which very easily you could do with those 2 years. With young people who have a lot of energy, who just come out and run a 1 year games master, and working with the sports National Institute of Sports to develop a program that takes them into schools to now actually engage in quote unquote playing. A few countries do military service. People like South Korea, Switzerland do 2 years military service. But they exempt sports people. They exempt sports people from the military service. Roger Federer got a 2-year exemption. And when he started making money because he turned pro, he paid. He actually paid some money to the Swiss government in lieu of not doing that service, because he became a professional. Right? South Korea has the same thing. So this Tottenham player, son, doesn't go for military service. Instead, he does in lieu military service, because it is taken that his sports career. So these are the advantages that sports has. It is taken that the values sports teaches you is akin to the values that your military service will teach you. So we need to begin to look at sports differently in this country. We need to look at it as a solution to a problem or quote unquote, I don't think it's a problem, but a problem we now have. We need to have I listened to Dr. Dairu Sadi, who said, look, implementation they don't talk to all the stakeholders before they come up with something. I think it is the stakeholders that should, make themselves front and center. Yes, Mrs. Angela Ajala said they try to tell them that can you look at this curriculum? Everybody kind of shove them out of the room. But I will tell you a story about the pension fund reform. President Obasanjo was totally against it. In fact, I don't want to tell you how
we don't have the time for.
No, it's just that, I listen to everyone, so you need to give us time to also have.
I wish we had.
Yeah. I was going to tell you about stakeholder engagement. I didn't want to talk about the problems we had. When I hear that the ministry or anything said we don't want to hear, you have to be in their faces. Obasanjo did not want pension reform. He didn't want it. He chased us out of the room, but we just bided our time, waited about a year or so, and represented with a stronger group of people. Today, look at the pension. We went from 2 trillion to pension is now nearly 20 trillion. So you can't afford to say they didn't allow you to say sports reform. I know the problem we went through. They didn't want us in the room, but you've got to find a way to make sure everybody is facing the same direction. Lastly, I want to say something. The last thing I will say here is the fact that, there's a lot of we've done the policy. Where is the implementation? We die on the altar of the. Can we find a way to find somebody or a group of people who are going to drive the implementation? If you finish the policy, leave it for government, nothing will happen. And that was what brought Sport Nigeria, the recognition that no policy we were doing with government was actually going to work. So the private sector came together and set up Sport Nigeria that I run today. And we are now ensuring we hold everybody's feet to the fire to move and implement the elements of that policy. Who is holding the education ministry's feet to the fire is what we should be asking. And why are they not here today to hear all of these things?
I'm sure that we would make sure that this is publicized so that they would hear, right? So, and
no, it's not enough to publicize. Somebody must go beyond publicity.
I understand you. I understand. Thank you very much, Ms. I can see you are very passionate about this, and that tells me that is why you are sounding the way you're sounding. Well done. We will all be responsible, and we'll all take responsibility in our very own corners as individuals and as a member of the private sector too. So I'm sure that we would do the needful. Thank you so much, ma'am. We are very grateful that you could make it, and thank you for I'm sure everybody could feel that energy. So palpable. Well done. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. This and to think that is coming down. So I'm looking at the time like, wow, when did we start? Is it so? It's running so fast, but it's okay. And this means that we will need more time. This conversation must not end here. It's something that we should keep, pushing in our corners. Let's talk about it. Let's do something about it. Let's take responsibility. Next up, we're going to be calling on our next speaker, Mr. Olasukomi Okpeifa. Are you here, Mr.? So we'll be hearing from you in a bit. He is the Multina Teacher of the Year 2018. Mr. Okpeifa, are you here?
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello, sir. I see your face a lot on LinkedIn. The phenomenal.
Oh,
all
really?
right. Yes, Liz. He's surprised. Don't be surprised. Any teacher in town should know you. All right. Especially serious teachers, right? Okay, so by the way, congratulations on your achievement. Well done. Well done.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. So our discussion with you today. So we're looking at how do you believe the age at which a student enters school affects their ability to handle social and emotional pressure?
I must say once again, good morning to my leaders, those who have spoken ahead, and especially Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, our special mother, someone who really laid the foundation for Lagos education, and we can still feel in the transformation, we can still feel the transformation to today. And to the wonderful thought of Dr. Dahiru, that was great. And I would like to start, if you don't mind, let me just lend about 30 seconds to 1 minute of this my time to what Dr. Dahiru started with. As it's interesting to see that in this country, some policymakers will just sleep and wake up and then drop something on us. I mean, you remember what was said about the change in curriculum when we just threw trade on to us, remove biology as a special subject. I mean, as our compulsory subject, our languages was turned to elective. And interestingly, look at this part now. Computer science that used to be compulsory all around became elective. That happened 10 years ago. Now see where the world is now, see where Nigeria is. I made a post recently on that we are doing little, and the world is just moving far ahead of us anyway. So here we are, we just we do what do you call it now, policy without any statistics to back this up or any research at all. And I think we just need to do more than this. Educators just need to wake up and hold some people responsible. Before you will say that we are going to peg admission into 18 years, what research is supporting this? How many students do we have writing UTME every year that do not have opportunity to gain admission to the university that will now stay? What is the age of getting a job in this country in the first place? Now you can imagine me now having to write UTME for 5 years when I'm 18, add that to my age, add that to ASU strike and everything, a whole lot of things that we just need to address. Now, we talk about policy making now without checking the foundation. Is it my fault that I graduated at the age of 15, 16? No. My mother said at the age of 5 that I should write common entrance, and I jumped into GSS2 even in my own case. And see me now, I now want to gain admission and you ask me to stay at home. Unfortunately, I've lost my father. I'm just doing a typical example. I've lost my father, nobody to now bridge the gap between 15 years and 18 years. I stay there, I become an admiral all of a sudden. I mean, a whole lot of things we just need to look at and foundation. Can we make our private education, private schools to stay back and do exactly 6 years? Unfortunately, I'm living in a particular community now where all the private schools in my community, none of them have primary 6. My children now to now jump from primary 5 to GSS1. And one day I started, I had to look at my second son that this boy gradually now will finish secondary school at the age of 14. I started looking at it. Now, what's the foundation again? My wife is a working woman. I am a working man. I actually stay at home. So we have to drop them and what do you call it now, very early in life. I just woke up one day that my little daughter now is already in primary 2 at the age of 6. By the time you calculate that now, that poor girl will graduate very too early, and then you want me to cover the gap for her? No. Now look at so many other things we want to look at now, but because of our time, I won't want to look at that. So finally, there under that is the misalignment of our culture. We are talking about education in total separation of the reality in the society. The way we handle education is just one department that is just not in sync. So you now graduate and then you go into the world to start living all over again. But let me jump into the question now quickly. We talk about age and maturity. I totally agree with it. We did this in psychology of education, that you grow both cognitively, culturally, socially, according to your age. Is that. But side by side with age is what we are missing out. That is exposure. Forget it. If we sustain these children for 18 years in school and they do not have the required exposure, we are just going to produce a big baby at the end of the day that will still enter the university and will still be as immature and will still need to go through the process of learning by experience. I will use myself as an example. I gained admission at almost 18. I finished around July when I was 17, and then by November, I got this luck that, I've been given the course of my choice, education, and by March, I became 18. The second year. So I should be a typical example of what the policy is talking about. But when I entered the university, I was more of like a misfit. I had more people who were older. The secondary school did not prepare me for the reality of the university. There is this, and up to now, there's this big gap between education we receive in secondary school and what is there in the university. Forget whether private school or not, forget you are a brilliant student. The exposure, I was one of the best in school, but the exposure I had was just limited to that, and I could hardly cope. It took me a whole year before I could cope with what was happening in Lagos State University. Now, that same year, we were about 3 that seemed somewhat young. A young guy came at the age of 25. I think when he graduated, he had interned at a co-FM or something like that. And then he had to write UTME all over again. He had never gone to university before, but I think he did some internship as a broadcaster. Then he came back to study English language in Lagos State University. He became our lecturer. He was teaching us he was one organizing tutorials for us. I heard the word cosmopolitan from him for the first time, and so many other words. Now, what makes the difference between him and us? He had the real life experience that we've been talking about now. The gap, who covered it for him? Life covered it for him anyway. Me, myself, Rachel, all of us young ones, we were just sincerely, we were so we could not fit into the university to the point that one of us became an unnecessary pastor in the fellowship because she preferred to go to the fellowship more than to come to the classroom. I struggled all through. I almost dropped out. The other girl was just, we were discussing this earlier today now. She was just totally confused. A lecturer will come to your class and then, lecturer and general lecturers anyway, what they will want to do. So mainly, age is not just the only thing. Age it is, I agree. But if we do not give them the required exposure in our school, and interestingly, our secondary school curriculum is as good as what was useless now when my grandfather went to school. Imagine the same definition of economics is still what we still have now. I must put it to all economists in the house, if there's anyone, that there is a total different definition of economics now if you look at Nigerian context. The definition of democracy in Nigerian context is totally different from what we have in our book, sincerely. So why are we now teaching education as totally different? And then we now carry ourselves to university now. You can imagine the mismatch there. So I agree totally anyway that age it is. But while they are still growing, what exposure are we giving them? At what point are we introducing them to critical thinking properly, beyond rote learning? At what point are we introducing them to communication properly? That's what we just had here now. Fantastic communication here now. How many secondary school students, even teachers, would sit down like this and say, okay, let's have a conversation, meaningful one? At what point are we training teachers to give the required knowledge? The teachers that do not even know, cannot even give what they don't have. So a whole lot of things that we just need to cover within the space of saying age. So age is it is. However, what exposure are we giving these children to go with? I wouldn't know whether I still have an opportunity to come back again, but I would like to stop here. If I come back again, we'll be talking about some other parts of what we just need to do to make a difference here. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll just allow you quickly add that thought of what you can do to make a difference so that you won't need to come back.
All right, so no problem. In a few minutes, I think I should just be done with that.
You can just do that in a minute.
No problem. It's what I'm just seeing in front of me now. Somebody is talking about curriculum now. I think somebody has just said that our curriculum has changed. May I just say that our needs have changed. Our needs in society have changed, but our curriculum remains the same, competing with God, the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So I think it is just time for us to now be very intentional. And I can see great educators in the house. Can we make it a responsibility, just like the way the sports people did and the pension people did? And we walk to Ministry of Education and tell them, enough is enough. Can we introduce self properly into education? Whereas when our students are graduating, they are graduating with the right required skills. The teachers is this. Okay, let me give an example quickly of this. I have two students in front of me on Sunday to present something to parents as a National Day program. Okay. In 5 minutes, a particular student was able to cram about 4 stanzas of Gabriel Okara's Once Upon a Time poem. Another one who did very well in the classroom that could analyze the poem who did not have the ability to cram. But because of what we wanted to test, we had to use the one that crammed to present. Now imagine we are now testing reality. And that's what our education test. We test what we can cram. The girl that did fantastically well did not have a chance. The one that could cram and present for the pride of it had a chance. So it is high time we just sat down and look into it. What is our goal even as a country? You are saying the child is still in 18 years. The 18-year child does not even understand the national goal, does not understand the national vision. So let's talk about the national vision. Let's break our education into that. You may not need to even copy UK or US. You may discover that your child can be exposed enough at the age of 16 and have a particular kind of education, not necessarily university, that can take him on and make him useful in the society. It's just a call to all our friends and all our senior ones before you go away from this space of education that please, can you support us and let's work again to Ministry of Education and let's make them do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Mr. Okwefa. It was good having you here. Well done. Thank you. And finally, we have Mr. Seun Folorunso. He will be representing Dr. Babatunde Obrima.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you to Edutimes and Mr. Akmade and team for putting this together. And I'm very glad to be representing Dr. Obrima on this call. I've learned quite a lot. over the few period we spent,
Okay.
Our own dimension is to bring in the dimension.
Okay. Okay. So yes, our conversation will be on the digital knowledge opportunity for teenagers during this gap year. We're looking at the 16 versus 18. We're thinking the way forward. Yes, Okwefa, one of the key things that he said was, to make sure we have year 6, compulsory for all schools. And I think that would be a great one if we're able to institutionalize that in Nigeria. However, when we're looking at what we have now, we're talking solution. We are looking at the way forward. So we on this side of the divide, we're looking at opportunity. What can we do? So which is where you come in, the digital knowledge opportunity for teenagers during that gap year. So the child finishes at 16. We have, say, maybe 2 years or 1 year, as the case may be, depends on the case. So can gap years be used as a strategic time for students to build digital knowledge and skills before entering higher education or the workforce? We don't want people getting So please, yes, take on that.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, it could be built, right? And I mean, the way the workforce of the future is changing actually shows us that we really need to catch them young. If you've seen a number of releases by World Economic Forum, Deloitte and the likes, they are even saying that in the next couple of years, 80% of skills that people go to acquire in schools are going to be fizzled out. So we then begin to need to catch them young by exposing them to opportunities in the future of work, right? And we could do this by exposing students to coding boot camps, right? We could have teenagers coding boot camp, and the way digitization is moving, it has shown that there is nothing you do today that you don't need digital to drive. There is nothing you do that you don't need IT to drive. So, and the earlier we expose teenagers to it, the better for us as a country. So we see a couple of opportunities. Coding bootcamp is one of them. Okay. The MOOC online courses are not also limited by age. So if we also expose them to this kind of thing earlier, it could also be very great. Even online freelancing, content development and all of that are not restricted by age. It's always a function of what can you do. And if there is something I want to drill on this call, is the fact that we need to move from, as a nation, from a certificate focused nation to a skill-based nation, where we are saying, what can you do? It's not about certificates, it's about what you can do. And the opportunities out there is not a respecter of age. As far as you can do things, you can freelance, you can develop content and make money globally, So I feel if we leverage some of these things, it will really be good for our teenagers, and it will help them to make a great use of their gap days or years, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was nice having you. Please extend our regards to Dr. Bremer. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's been an outstanding conversation here, and for me, one of the key take-home for you, I don't know what your key take-home, so if you will, please begin. I'd like you to share your key take-home point. What is that, what's that thing that stood out for you, right? So yes, we can't be focusing on a certificate. Thank you, and Sonia. Yes, we just can't always focus on certificate. We also want to begin to rethink that and start thinking of, okay, what can this person do? One of our speakers talked about the ikigai, right? What skill, what am I good at? What solution do I want to bring? What do I want to do? What do I like to do? So there's a whole lot that we can do with this gap here. So it is not a problem. It's something that we can begin to, it's a lemon that we can make lemonade out of, if you will, right? So I am looking to see Okay, thank you. Yes, Antonia says, okay, no, Kenneth says policy without structure creates chaos. That's his own take home. Yes, policy without structure creates chaos. So if you have any take home, you can just share in the comments section and I would read it out to everyone. And thank you so much, everyone who has stayed on this call with us. Thank you, amazing thank you to everyone. I'm going to be calling on Mr. Dapo to give the vote of thanks, because I'm so excited. I'm already saying thank you. I'm saying thank you because I can tell you I have taken a whole lot. My notes is filled, and I know I have something to run with. There's something I can do. You know, I told you I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. So there's something for me to hold on to. So this has been very, very, very informative session for me. It's productive. It's a time well spent. It's indeed a beautiful Independence Day celebration for me. So I'd like you to give the vote of thanks, sir. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ngozi. You've done a wonderful job with the event as well. And this vote is thanks to be shared by myself and Adi. So I'll say my bits at the I want to say a big thank you for everybody who's taken part today, the speakers, everybody has participated, everybody has sent comments and so on. One of the big takeaways that I want people to go away with today is that education goes beyond just academics. That is something that
I think this will be your turn to go ahead with. All right, Mr. Okay, would you please also share your own? Mr. Dapo is back. Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know how much of that you heard, unfortunately.
You were sharing your takeaway, how that education is not just that was the power.
Thank you. So it's not just academics, and this is something we've been trying to put out there as Edutimes right from the beginning to make people realize that it goes beyond just what you learn in the classroom. It's what is digital learning. It's everything. Somebody mentioned it, I think it might have been Dr. Jibir, I think, or Mr. Jada, that education should be a holistic process, building up the whole person. And I think that is one thing that's been missing in our society for a while. And I'm hoping that with this, we're going to take that forward and more people sort of appreciate that, and that should come into our education space a bit more. So thank you very much to everybody, to all the speakers. I'm not going to mention anybody in particular because everybody has absolutely great. It's been a wonderful session, and we're hoping that this is our maiden webinar. So we're hoping this is going to be the first of many. Thank you to everybody. God bless you all, and I wish you all the best. Thanks so much. Adi, I'd like you to. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Dapo. Thanks for that, and thank you, Ngozi, for the energy you brought today. And okay, she's left, and thanks, Emem, for all of what you've done for us as well. So before I actually close finally, which is what we're about to do, I want to also thank everyone for joining us this morning, and for those that are joining us from America and from Canada as well. We want to thank you for waking up so early to join us as well. I would like to share the poll results very quickly so that we can all see what the outcome was like. So the first question, which talked about what alternative education options should the government or private institutions consider for students who are ineligible for university admission due to the new age criteria. So 78% voted for vocational training, which alongside TVET, and also 14%, which is next to that, thought of that, okay, online or distance learning should be considered. 8% thought that, community college or polytechnic options, this is part of the feedback we're basically trying to take away, and it's of good use for every one of us, such that parents and educators can basically look at which direction would be best for many of our children who would, and because this is going to linger for some years to come, if it's going to happen now, you're going to have this situation in our hands. We're going to have it in our hands for the next 5 to 10 years. So the second question talks about, okay, on a scale of 0 to 5, how much do you think, do you believe the government should provide financial aid or scholarship for students affected by the age restrictions to pursue alternative education paths? So they 54% strongly agree that government should actually provide some level of funding. So, Mr. Kitude Soya, you are here with us. I don't know, this is a takeaway for you. It's an input into your future policy amendments. Should that opportunity arise, people think that, hey, if that can actually happen within that space, it will be good for those that will be, out of high school and yet to get into higher education. And 35% somewhat agree, and 11% do not agree. But if you combine the 35 to 54% that are really in agreement with this, I think it's worth considering. Now, the last one, which is in that number 3, in your opinion, which of the following alternative pathways would be most beneficial for students unable to meet the age criteria? So 70% think that entrepreneurship or internship programs should be considered, while 24% think that, okay, gap year programs for skill development should be considered. So if you mark those two together, it shows you that the gap year is actually a useful period to help our young ones to basically evolve and be able to find their future, as much as possible. So that is our takeaway for today in the whole. And again, I want to thank you all for coming to have this conversation with us. I'm unable to actually mention everyone's name, but I want to thank every one of the speakers. I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank my co-hosts. I want to thank the guys at the back end who's been spending the last couple of nights, and trying to make this possible. I want to thank the moderators for a wonderful job well done. I want to thank you for spending your airtime and data to connect to this. It's not definitely not a waste. I believe you've learned something. We have learned something, and we're going to put it into great use. From the chat group, we've been seeing quite a whole lot of comments coming from there, and please believe, I want you to trust us that we will be able to take this further. We have quite a whole lot of conversations that are coming up. Edutimes Africa is actually poised to bring forward a whole lot of conversations in the near future, which will be very, very useful for every one of us. Again, please continue to join us, continue to give us the feedback that you think we need to do. And we hope to continue to improve, and we hope to continue to have you within our community to actually, create a better society for our children and for our future. Thank you very much. So, Ms. Ngozi, back to you.
Okay, well done once again. Well done, Mr. Adebiyoke and Mr. Oladapo. It's a great outing. We look to have, we will wait to hear the next webinar, because from this conversation, you can tell that it can no longer be a one-off. It's something that we need to do. So this is a clear feedback to you that we need to have more of this. All right, well done, everybody. Thank you for staying true to this. To our panelists, good job today. Well done, everybody.
Okay, so the webinar has finally ended. Goodbye, everyone.